Hi, my name is Nadia Garzone, and today my speech will be an analysis of the Berlitz German Coast Guard commercial. So the first thing I will do is show you the commercial.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Let me show you how I use Grammarly from start to finish with my essays.
Okay,
First, obviously go to app.grammarly.com and click
if
New
it'll
Doc.
let me. Okay. So let me get back to the main page. Okay. So the 2006 Berlitz German Coast Guard sinking ad is a perfect example of a humorous, persuasive ad. By looking at the ad through the lens of O'Hare et al., A Pocket Guide to Public Speaking, we can see how the commercial uses ethos, pathos, and logos to convince the audience that language proficiency is an absolute necessity. The commercial begins by setting up and then immediately breaking down ethos, which is a perceived credibility and authority. The textbook explains in greater detail that ethos is built on how the audience views a speaker's competence, character, and professionalism. The ad opens by creating a high ethos environment with a modern naval command center with uniform-clad personnel. An older employee is shown training a newly hire, signifying a strict environment of discipline and high standards. The visuals tell the viewer that these people are experts and that the coast is safe in their hands. However, the moment a frantic distress call comes in, that credibility completely shatters. The trainee's polite but totally useless response reveals a fatal flaw that he does not understand basic English phonetics. By showing an authority figure failing so badly at a task, Berlitz argues that credibility and advanced technology doesn't mean anything if you lack the fundamental language skills to do your job safely. While the destruction of authority handles the ethos part of the ad, most of the commercial is driven by pathos, which is the appeal to emotions. Appealing to pathos means choosing language and vivid imagery that truly touch an audience's feelings and leaves a personal connection. The commercial builds an intense life or death atmosphere purely through sound. Over the radio, we hear a frantic, static, heavy voice screaming, "We are sinking," a sound that naturally triggers fear and empathy in the viewer. Yet this high-stakes tension is immediately crushed by the newly hired's calm, heavily accented question, "Hello, what are you thinking about?" The clash between impending death and the total ignorance creates instant comedic relief. This emotional pivot is a highly calculated, persuasive tool because it resolves a terrifying situation with a laugh, which lowers our guard. The comedy makes the ad memorable, while the discomfort of the fear of being completely misunderstood during a crisis stays with the viewer after the commercial ends. Finally, the commercial ties all these pieces together using logos, otherwise known as logical reasoning. Logos refers to targeted arguments that rely on reason and evidence. For about 35 seconds, the advertisement plays out strictly as narrative comedy with zero sales pitch. The logic of the entire piece relies on an unstated cause and effect relationship that only clicks in the final 5 seconds. When the screen cuts to a silent black background, simple white text appears. Improve your English, Berlitz, language for life. The logical argument follows a clear line of reasoning, starting with poor language skills, causing catastrophic, life-threatening misunderstandings. Secondly, Berlitz provides the training necessary to fix these errors. Finally, Berlitz says you should buy into them to navigate a globalized world safely. By saving the actual brand message until the very end, the commercial allows the viewer's brain to connect the dots on its own, making Berlitz's argument feel obvious rather than forced. In conclusion, the Berlitz German Coast Guard commercial shows that even a brief, funny video can be massively persuasive. The ad establishes and dismantles professional ethos, uses pathos to make us connect to the story, and drives the message home with the solid, unspoken logos. The commercial elevates the act of learning a second language from a casual hobby to a critical life-saving skill. Thank you guys so much for listening to my speech today.